So guys, in today's video we're going to be doing Garten Bam Bam the Story Explained 0 through 8 part 2. We ended off at 6 where we actually where Bitter Giggle said to Sir when Bitter Giggle said to Sir Dadadoo, sorry that's my friend. Where Bitter Giggle said to Sir Dadadoo, they're going to destroy us all! By the way, music will be playing in the background, so just let me just answer this text and I'll be right back to you guys. Alright, now I'm going to continue. So Bitter Giggle said to Sir Dadadoo right when we found the scepter, we had no choice! They were going to destroy us all! And then Sir Dadadoo says, you did have a choice and you chose wrong. I'm going to play the music now. He said, you did have a choice and you chose wrong. And then Bitter Giggle, and then Bitter Giggle says, oh not Bitter Giggle. And then Sir Dadadoo says, where are the sheriff and the surgeon? Surely me coming here and taking the scepter wasn't part of your grand plan. And then Bitter Giggle's like, I don't know where they are, in a confused tone. And then Sir Dadadoo says, seems that scepter is incomplete, or are you going to tell me where the missing scepter piece is, or am I going to have to eat your pet kitty? And then Bam Bam's like, you won't be doing any of that. And then says this to Nab Nab, forget what happened between us before. You know you've always been my friend, but what are friends for times like these? And then injects him with a syringe and throws him off the balcony, or whatever it is, the railing. And then he wakes up in his hellish form and just attacks Sir Dadadoo, and then they go into the abyss, onto the darkness. And then Bam Bam's like, run. And then we get to the part where Bitter Giggle says, I don't think I can go. And then Bam Bam's like, what do you mean? And then Bitter Giggle's like, you wouldn't understand. The naughty ones appreciate my jokes. They appreciate my jokes. Who's they? This is my one chance to have an audience, and I am going to take it. Goodbye.
Express with confidence and take control of your life online.
Sorry.
Express and enjoy an internet without limits. Express and browse, knowing your...
Yeah, and then we run back into the elevator, and then Sir Dadadoo just literally comes with all of his notified minions, and he's like, what's he say again? Let me think what he said again. Oh yeah, he says this, and this is when they realized everything they had worked for so hard for was all for nothing. Hold up, let me just charge this. I'll be right with you in a second. Let me just charge the phone. The phone that I'm using music for.
Presents, if your gut feels good, you feel good.
That's
so give it some love and start your day with Activia Cooking,
yeah.
The most diverse Activia mix made with 16 strains of live whole.
And then Sir Dadadoo's like, and together and under my command, we'll finish what the Queen couldn't. And then Bam Bam's like, I'll hold them off. Look for the surgeon. And then Bam Bam gets like attacked and jumped by all the notified crew. And then we go to Garten Bam Bam 7 where we go and we see the safety guide about case 8 the spider. And it just talks about, participants of her and understanding the ability of heroes. And we get a key card. Then Tomotoki, mortified by the way, fall down the elevator because Bam Bam did something. Well, it's rather broke the beast. And then, what happened after that is we go to the room with the orange key card that we picked up. And then we go through the area, we recharge the door, and then Napnaline is there. We get like a geranium barrel, light it up with gasoline and put tape around it, and then we give it to Napnaline, or like pass it to her without her knowing we actually gave it, without her knowing we even gave it to her. And then she looks at it, and when she touches it, it literally explodes, and she loses balance and falls off into the abyss. And then we go inside the room that we recharge the door with, and then we call the train, and it says train offline, please contact maintenance. And then there's an area where it says go and you will see, and we go there, and pretty much what happened is the train is like broken or something, which is weird because Garten Bam Bam the train works, but we'll talk about that later. But then after that what happens is we go to where the surgeon is, and then he kidnaps us, and then he says, "Do you humans ever get easier to look at? The limitations of your bodies disgust me." And then he says this to one of his Gavanian citizens, "Grab me the scissors." And then he's talking to us now. "At this moment, you might think of yourself as unlucky, but I'm actually here to tell you that you're actually privileged. Privileged to be part of my operations. You'll die as something greater than yourself, not some loser who nobody will remember." And then when the Gavanian citizen brings him a hammer instead of the scissors, Sir John's like this, "Those aren't the scissors." And then he attacks him out of rage, charges him. "How many times do I have to teach you the difference between hammers and scissors? You useless waste of resources. Do you think Javanium grows on trees? You're getting repurposed." Then we wake up, grab a yellow key card, open the door, find a lollipop, give the patient its lollipop, and then he gives us a rope. We find a hammer in one of the rooms as well, break the boards, and then put a rope. This is all a trap for the surgeon, by the way. And we also find a note left by the surgeon that says, "The only way to work the whole..." No, it's like this. He's like this. "Why are these employees making me work for them? I'm not some piece of scrap. I'm gonna show them what dominance really is. Have I gone insane?" So basically, that's a note. That's just the note where Sir John's just gone insane talking about his rambles. Then after that, we then put the rope and break down their boards because the naughty ones are behind that door. And when Sir John runs into the rope, he trips and one of the naughty ones grabs him, but he managed to hold back and he's like, "Kill it!" And he's like, "You slimy patient, kill it. Fine, you got it. Kill it and I'll let you go." So we do so, which is the dumbest idea you could have ever done. And after that, he tells us how, the Jumbo Josh attacked the city and we can find him and kill Sir Dadu's notified crew. And that's what we do. We head out. Oh yeah, before we do that, he also talks about he teaches us about the scepter. He says, "You should have seen Dadadu in his prime. That guy had ambitions and connections I've yet to see contested. What his kind did to him and us. It forced him to dedicate all that aggression to the people who created him. Maybe if we stood by him and not be the cowards, maybe we would have been victorious." And then he talks about how not everyone has a genetic code, but Sir Daddy and the Queen do. And then he tells us this is confidential. And then he says, "Our mutual friend," which is Ban, I think, said that Biddigiggle made the Queen laugh next time she was having joke shots. And then after that, we're going to the city. We're introduced to the Witness, which is actually a voice actor from someone, I forgot who. I think the voice actor that did this part was friends with Super Horrors. That's cool. And then what happened was that he said, I didn't know where he went, but I remember his face. Give me a picture and I'll draw him on for you. And we drew him and said, "Go ask around the bowl of this photo. They'll have more people on you on the case." And we go there and then they're like, "You're a human, we can't let you in." So we find the ID. Well, we actually get in ourselves. Then they're like, "I can't talk to you, you're a human. Get out. Or just don't talk." And basically what happens is we find an ID card, a Javanium ID card, and we use that to convince him that we are indeed a Javanium citizen when we're actually not. And then he believes it and he says, "I believe it. Did you need something?" And then we show him the photo and he's like, "Head to the back. The boss will want to talk to you." And the boss is actually Sheriff Toadster. ST. It's actually ST, Sheriff Toadster. And then he talks to us and says, "Why am I, I couldn't save Bambolina, they're not the ones who got her. Maybe I'm just trash like everyone else. I deserve to be in this alley." We find a note that also says he's growing at a rate that's far than expected. I don't actually know who this is. I don't know. There's 3 guesses I have for who they're talking about when they say it's growing at a rate faster than expected. Number 1, Stinger Flim, the most likely answer because he's really huge. Number 2 is number 2 is Nab. Oh no, number 2 is Jumbo Josh. And then number 3 is actually... trying to figure what number 3 is. Number 3, it's Nab Nab. Yeah, so it's either Jumbo, Josh, Stinger Flynn, or Nab Nab. But that's just my theory. It might not be. I don't know, actually. Because it was written in, like... It wasn't written in, like, Chef Toadstool's or, like, Sir John's writing. So we actually don't know. It's probably one of the employees that's talking about this. I have no idea what this could be. It's probably one of the most mysterious notes inside of the game known today. And after that, we take the key card, go to the apartment building, because Chef Toad says, someone knows about Jumbo Josh and his whereabouts in said apartment building. This key card will give you access to it. Wouldn't hurt to sit with the guy. So we go in there, and then the guy's like, once you get the person that's annoying me upstairs to shut the fuck up, I'll tell you what I know. You'll want to know what I know. Trust me. Then we go up there, you know, he's telling us, like, Bittergiggle's over there, please help. And then the notified, hellish Bittergiggle comes and says, hey, you always hated my jokes, and chases us through the rooftops of this motel. And then we escape, and Chef Toad's like, I'll catch you. So we do, and he says, quick, let's inside. And then it's like, this is not how I imagine I'll be spending my afternoon. And then after hellish notified Bittergiggle comes in, breaks the door down, Chef Toad catches him and like, and says, what did he say? What did he say again? He says something about, what did he say? He says like, what did he say? Can't remember what he said. Oh, he says, step back or I'll use like lethal force or something. And then he says, prepare to get toasted. And then he throws a toad. Oh, I didn't mean to play that game. I didn't mean to play that. That was accident. And then he says, yeah, it's basically says like, get toasted. Don't make me use the force. And then it turns back to his original form, but he hit him so hard, he actually died. The regular Bittergiggle died. And then Sheriff's like, no, I didn't mean to. And then Bittergiggle's like, it's okay. I deserve this. And he's like, I'm always the one telling jokes. Why don't you take your day to make somebody laugh? Sheriff, tell me a joke. And then he's like, I'll try. And then he says, why don't animals eat jesters? Because they taste funny. And then Bittergiggle's like, I don't get it. Wait, that's actually not bad at all. And then he dies. And then Chef Toad was like, just leave me alone, please. With his frown on his face instead of a grin. And then we leave, and then our objective is to return to the angry neighbor. So we do so, and he says, what's over there? No, that's some strange stuff. And then he says, whatever, you want it. Take the key card, go to the theater. So we go to the theater, but before we can get a ticket, we see Stinger Flynn. Oh, we also see a note before we see Stinger Flynn that says, dear mommy, we are scared. We don't know what the jellyfish is. We are scared. Miss Mason. Miss Mason's so scared. Also, in Garten Band 6, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I think I forgot to leave out the child's note in Garten of Ban 6 and 2. So in 2, they're like, in 2, the children's note is, Mummy, we managed to escape the evil red man and the green guy. The jellyfish saved us. And then, there's also one in 4 I forgot to mention. It's like, we had the best party ever. Me, Miss Mason, Claire, Stinger Flynn. And then they were having like a happy dance. And then in the 6th game, there's, oh yeah, I already told you about the 6th one. And then yeah, back in the present now, it's gone about 7. And then the child's note is, oh yeah, no, I just said what the child's note was. In 6, they're like, we want to talk to the face like Miss Mason said. Me, Claire, scared Miss Mason. And the face they're talking about is Zolfius, by the way, just thought I'd mention. But yeah, so pretty much that's that. And then, going back to the 7th game again. And then the child noticed the same as I told you in 7. And then we meet Stinger Flynn and he's like, oh, it's you. Can't say I'm happy to see you alive and well. That leech could not turn me into one of his minions. He's talking about Sir Daddy, by the way. But it's still too dangerous for me to wander on the streets. And then he's like, oh, and then he gives us another one of his fever dreams, and he's like, it sure looks like you need it. It's not part of the law, so we didn't go with the fever dream. But then, we wake up and we get a ticket, and we enter, and one of the citizens, obviously the Gravanium citizens don't like humans, because they're made of Gravanium, so they've seen one, and they don't really like them. So Injo taught them to not like humans, and then once we give him the ticket, he's like, let me see that. And then he's like, you'll be going to the only auditorium that's not barricaded. I hope you hate your time here. Human scum. And then we go in and then I think it's Fusion Z Gamer. That's the voice actor in this part, I think. And he's like, appreciate how fine art are you? Find me the laptop to shot the show, and I'll give you the tracker, which is tracker on Jumbo Josh. And then we pull the lights, and he's like, perfect, but there's one more thing. I'm trying to make the show crazy, the best as possible, since I've watched it 568 times. And he's like, go, the delivery's here. Check, it should be right by the main entrance. Can you go grab it? So we do it. It's like some Tarbird thing. It's like some statue of like Tarbird and Opilaba mixed together, and they're inside of the statue. And then we do it, and he's like, you must watch the show. And then we take the what's called the thing, the tracker, and then we watch the show. It's not that important anyway. Then the Pilabird, the notified Pilabird and Tartarbird comes out, and then they chase us, and then the actors in the part are like, run. And then once we do that, by the way, if I've missed out anything, just tell me. I really hate when I miss out on parts. Yeah, and then after we do that, we then go to the tools mart, which is where the tracker leads to. But to get the keycard to actually go inside the building, we will need Syringeon to unlock the second door behind it, the inner door, and then we'll need a keycard for the outer door. But the inner door we need Syringeon for anyway. So we go into the access to tools mart area, where there's like the class going on, Mameline's class, and then she says, just in time for the pub exam, and then we have to solve this book up about like match the characters' appearances with their face. Like Jumbo Josh equals teeth, Syringeon equals his equipment, and so they do exercise. Really, really simple. And to do it, she's like, great job guys, everyone gets an A+. And then we get to take the key card into the tools mart, and then Syringeon comes and is like, so that's where Jumbo Josh is. I sent a team of bounty hunters to check out that building earlier. Maybe that's why they never came back. Anyway, let's do this. And everyone, the fate of our hands is in everyone, and everything is in all 6 of our hands. It didn't make any sense, sorry. The sentences are a bit fuzzy today. Maybe it doesn't read in the commentary. Or the story, sorry. And then we go in and then do some puzzles, and then there's this like baby / creature, Garden, and then we escape it, and then we do some other puzzle with like, you got to guess these characters in certain order. Bullcrap. Don't talk about it. It's enough religion. Nothing to do with the story, sorry. And then after that, we find a sample of Jumbo Josh. So we do another puzzle right before we did it. So we find a Javanium sample of Jumbo Josh because he got hurt when he was trying to escape somehow. Probably one of the bounty hunters. But the bounty hunters are dead. Anyways, and then when we get it, we then find a note about the child monkey. The child monkey is the Captain Fiddles, by the way. Oh, and also there's also another note about the child monkey in the restaurant. The restaurant, the little beer restaurant place, cafe, whatever it was called. Yeah, and once we do that, once we get out, he's like, what's that you got there? Is that a Javanium sample? This is better than it. Pardon me. It's better than actually finding him. We use this to lure him to wherever we want. But before we start the fight, Jumbo Josh versus a sad dedicated army and himself, we find a key card that we use a purple key card for that was in the tools mart. Then we find a sort of greenish key card, use it on a door, and this is the Bashista door, I like to call it that. And then it has the door. And then when we go in, it's at Batman's kindergarten, and it says, Bashista says, what does she say? It says, life is like a carnivus. Once a more mistaken, it's all ruined. It's just a drawing of that. It's not like an actual real version of that. We'll see that in GeoBB9, though. I'll be making a video on Garden Batman 9, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, pretty much what happened, when we got the thick room, there was a note. Well, there's actually no note in that room, I don't think. And then, yeah. There's just stuff that says Jumbo Josh too dumb, Stinger Flynn too smart, Zolphius ? And the Scepter case 20 type 8. And so yeah, the Scepter's actually a case. That's supposed to be the shocking part. Sorry about that. That was a mistake. Alright, we're back. Yeah, and pretty much, and then we go to Syringeon, and he's like, let's do this, and then Sir Daddy comes, and Syringeon also has some history of Sir Daddy, has the big giggle, And pretty much what happens is and Sir John's like, you what does he say? Oh yeah, no, he says this. He's like, you have every right to be mad at us. I would be too. But you have to understand, we were forced to do what we did. And he's like, no, you're wrong. You wanted to take the easy way out and made me pay alone for all of us. This is payback. And then takes the scepter piece and says, you think I don't know you and all of your tricks? Whatever the trap may be, my army will take care of you anyway. And then he says, any last words before I command my whole army to devour you? And then Sir John tells us, get in the box! And then our objective is to get in the highlight box. So we do it, and then John Josh comes out, defeats Sir Daddy's army, and then he's like, and Sir Daddy says, maybe we can negotiate something. John Josh is like, nope, grabs him down, punches him like 20 or 30 times, something like that. And then I think that like knocks him out, and then he's in the prisoner in the next game, whatever. And then John Josh eats the scepter. Dumbass, bro. And then Sir John's like, right before we black out, he's like, no, don't eat it. And the whole like city or something explodes. And then we're waking up and he says, the scepter was destroyed in the he says the plan worked, but the scepter was destroyed in the process. It's the better this way if you ask me. Nobody should have that much power. And then basically what happened after that is we get the remote and then Stinger Flynn wakes up and he's like, why does it look like we can peel that drawing on the wall? Oh, also, the tartar bird and the peeler bird are imprisoned. So, yeah, that's cool. And then, basically what happened is Sir John's like, what's that? And then Stinger Flynn says, that drawing on the wall. Looks like there's something behind it, like a blue guy or something. And then he's like, weird. I'll just leave it alone. You two should rest. And then before he says that, right when we wake up, I also forgot to mention that he says, you should rest. And then we'll discuss what we're going to do next. But anyways, back to this. Yeah, and then we peel it once and he's like, don't touch that. Peel it a second time and he's like, you really shouldn't see what's behind that. You just need some rest. And then we fully peel it and then we fully peel it and then we see like Flumbo, you know, the blue band, the anti-devil. And then he's like, never play with the devil. And then he hits us on the head with one of his like tools and he's like, doctor's orders! And then after that, we wake up in the prison cell. I'm going to Bambana, and this is like Deco or something. However you say the YouTuber's name. He voice acted one of the Gavanian blobs inside of the prison. And then he says, wake up! Out of all the units you could have been placed in, you just had to come where I was stationed. He says, wake up, you disgusting little thing. And then he says, open it up, like the prison cell. And then we do some, work for the cell guards, and then we meet Sir Daddy right before we go back to bed. Also, we see Tartar Bird and a Peeler Bird in prison as well. And then when he says it, he's like, oh yeah, no, he's like this. He's like, okay, the plan should work. Just don't tell anyone about our little meeting, or your head will be my lunch. And then we go back, and then right when we go to sleep, there's gas all in our room, like sleeping gas. And then we wake up, and then we're tied on the floor, along with Sir Dadazoon, the Gavanian citizen that worked for Sir Dadazoon in the prison. And then Sheriff Toadstool comes and says, meet your new warden, you cockroaches. You thought you could simply just escape from our prison, did you? Well, you're surely mistaken. And then he says, offer this Gavanian citizen lollipops. And then he was like, he got you all. So did I. And then the Gavanian citizen said, I'm sorry guys, it was an offer I couldn't refuse. And he's like, for once, I'm on the right side of history. Pulls out his, his little badge and then strikes him on the head with it, the Gavanian citizen. And then he's about to kill us next when 8-Bit Ryan, well not actually 8-Bit Ryan, it's the voice actor. And then the voice actor, like of the person that was in the truck trying to save us. And he was like, get in! And then he's like, mine's ahead! We fell off the bridge! Because we actually crashed. And then we woke up and then we go to where the closet was, where Flumbo was hiding. And then injured Bam Bang comes and opens it and says, hi, brother, it's been a while. And then we come out and he's like, why are you here? Whatever, we can go talk to the surgeon. And then he talks to us and says, you using Jumbo Josh to take on Sir Dadadoo? Whatever, let's get there. And then the surgeon has this message on the train when we arrive on the train. A dangerous human has recently escaped containment. They say they're looking for their children. Do not trust them. And then they say, and then Sir John says, a new reclamation team has been dispatched. May Lord pray we don't die. And then Bam Bam's like, we can't take you there. He'll kill you on sight. And then he says, go to the tower where Sir John is. It's his office. He won't see you. Then we'll meet up and see what we're going to do next. And then we do that. So we get off the stop, and then we put this Bitter Giggle assistant in like this computer, so we can hear like the AI Bitter Giggle. It's not real, it's the AI version. And then it's like, we need to analyze your body. You may have been hurt in places. So and we took Uthman Adams' card, also known as Bam Bam, also known as the Devil. So yeah, we take his card, and then when we go in there, pretty much what happens is we put it in, and then he's like, have you been hit over the head recently? Your hand hurts. Have you been holding too much stuff? Your legs must hurt. Why have you been walking too much? And then they're like, we'll see if there are any doctors to check up in you. And they're like, nope, there are no doctors on the premises. So we look around and we find this remote, and he's like, oh, you found this remote? Well, this can be used to open doors if such. And then we look around and find a module. This is really useful because modules actually tell us like about the characters and what happened to the cases, and we pick up this Captain Fiddles one in the area, and then it's like, these are Captain Fiddles. They were once children experimented on, and then we find this Opila Bun Tarbird one and Opila Bun Chicks, and I was like, oh, Opila Bun Chicks were not children, they were actually girls or boys, and the same for the Opila Bun Teddiebird. And then we find this Bam Bam and Flumber one, and they're like, two random 30-year-olds captured. So yeah, that's basically it. And they said Flumber and Bam Bam were made from extra Gavanium entrapment, which is the most dangerous Gavanium, by the way. And then they said Opila Bantaba were made using regular Gavanium. And the same for the Captain Fiddles. And the same for the Captain Fiddles, I think. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'm mistaken. But yeah. Pretty much what happens, and we do that, then we leave, and then we try, and we go, and we find this makeshift Gavanium citizen doctor, and then he's like, he's like, can you help me make Bambolina? And then we're like, sure, and we do the puzzle thing, and then he's mad that Bambolina wasn't correct and kills his own Gavanium baby, and then after that he's like, can we try again? And he wasn't successful again. I think we solve another puzzle in the makeshift doctor room to get the key card that we can use later. If I'm wrong about that, please tell me, because I can't really remember the secret. But I think we do the makeshift puzzle again, the makeshift doctor's puzzle again to get a secret key card, and then we use it later at the end of the game, I think. Yeah, and then once we do that, we then exit, and then there's this giant lobster that grabbed him, and we find the lobster, and it's not Bam Bam, by the way. It's this lobster was part of the reclamation team. I'll be making a video on the reclamation team and its 6 final member, which I have no idea who it is, but I'll talk about that in a different video. But yeah, it then chases us, and we use our remote. It's actually, you can also use it in an electrical zap remote, and then once we kill it, the makeshift doctor, I don't actually know where he's gone, and then we leave. And then we found Flumbo. If I'm missing any parts, please tell me, because I really hate when I miss parts. And then we found Flumbo, and he's like, help! They tied me to the bed! And then we escape, and then Sir John's like, hey, what are you doing out of your seat? And he's like, I don't want to play this game. And he's like, this is a different game of hide and seek, Flumbo. Now please play it. And then he's like, let's get out of here! And we both fall into Zorpheus' mouth. Turns out it's a giant city with Gavanium citizens in it. And then there's this, the Gavanium elderly citizen says, we have reason to suspect that your blue friend, Flumber, has caused the fire in our village. We'll put him in jail until we really know. And then we find a bunch of evidence from these guys, and then we have to head into the other part of the village to see who might have started it, because we know it definitely wasn't Flumbo. And then we find this is another part of the reclamation team, the Charizard. I can't remember how you say their name, the Charizard or something. They're like creatures with a plushie, a Bam Bam plushie on their back, and like a light torch, like a torch. And then they chase us around. We then escape them, and then they're like, "We know who did it now. Your friend can be free." And then the whole place is about to collapse, and they're like, "I'll sacrifice myself. Or build yourself a tower to escape by yours truly." And then when we escape, before we escape, the elderly shows us that Flumbo has actually been the real him, or the Gavanian elderly teaches Flumbo that he was being replaced and he was locked in locker for years because he thought he was still playing hide and seek, and he was like, "I thought 17 was the secret," even though he's been locked in there for years. He still thought he was. And then when he was enraged, and then when the whole place got blue, and he got out there, and then what happened? We have to do some sort of puzzle. It's not that important to the game. And then once we escape, we see the Charizard. I'm just going to call them that. No, I'm going to call them the light torch guy, so I can't remember his name. So the light torch guy says, "I'll be back. I always come back." And then what happens after that is pretty much, basically, we then solve the puzzle, and then we meet Ban and Syringeon once again, and also they're about to sacrifice case 6, I think, which is case 7, the teacher, Bambalina. And then he's like, "I might as well just do it." And he's like, "No." And yeah, we do it. He's do it, and he says, and then we do it. He does it, and then he's like, "You'll pay for that." And then he says, "You have that tape, right? Play the tape that the elderly gave you," which we actually get a tape from him, which reveals what Syringeon did to Ban. Ban's enraged, and he says, "I didn't know you become my favorite experiment. We can try to reverse it." And he's like, "Favorite experiment?" And then he turns into the devil Ban, the deviler, because he's stronger than him. He wasn't like free and all that. And then what happens is, he basically kills Syringeon, and before Syringeon dies, he says 2 sentences. "I knew this would happen one day," and he's like this, and then Batman punches him through the heart, and before he dies, he says this somehow, even though he's punched through the heart. He says this. He says, "It's a shame. I won't see the final stage." And right as that's happening, you can just explore the whole map, and there's pretty much the nanny that was in the 6th game in the corner. She's really mysterious. We walk over there and nothing happens. It doesn't let me go over a certain point when I tried it. So yeah, nothing really happens. But you don't have an achievement though. Cool. And then after that, Flumbo says this to Ban, the devil version of him, by the way. He says this to him: "There's one thing you need to know about me, Ban. I'm just better at controlling my anger." Then they both turn evil, and then they both fight, and then they both fall in the Gavanian barrel. If you inhale or even touch Gavanian when you're already a monster, it can lead to dangerous, mindless monsters. And then after that, before we actually do that, Syringeon also says, because Syringeon and Bambalina, Flumbo, and so Nab, Flumbo, Ban, Syringeon, and Bambalina are all dropped into the vat, and they're like combined into a monster. And then in the Garden of Ban 9, last Ticket to the Abyss trailer, there's this monster in the Nam trailer, and then we escape. Well, we don't actually encounter the monster in the F game, we see it in the trailer. Then we walk down, and then Brashista pretends to be our children and mimics them and says, "Mommy, you finally found us." And when we go and they're not there, but if you go the other way, there's actually a secret door, which we found with the keycard, with the like yellowish keycard, I think. Then when we open it, there's this character called Uni Balloony. I know nothing about her, by the way, or he, whichever. And then she's like, "Well, the bigger my balloons, the bigger my hugs," or something. And then after that, what happens is we then escape. And before we escape, Brashista says, "I need you as much as you need me," and that's the whole story explained for now, anyway. I'll do everything we know about Garten of Ban 9, and the next video will be the Reclamation team explained from Garten of Ban 8, and I'll also do a video because I actually forgot to include the Reclamation team characters in the Ban series when I was ranking all the characters, so I'll do that in a different video. Anyways, this is Ban out. Peace.